For more information on today's program, contact Erica Taylor Montgomery at threegirlsmedia.com. Now, back to Punch, Media and Marketing Made Easy on the Bay Area's business leader, AM 1220 KDOW.
Welcome back to Punch, Media and Marketing Made Easy on 1220 AM KDOW, the Wall Street Business Network. You can visit us online to get more information on today's topics on the Punch Marketing blog, as well as find the archives of all of our past topics that we've discussed. The website is punchmarketing.biz. That's punchmarketing.biz. I'm your host, Erica Taylor Montgomery, and we're talking about how to use Pinterest for business. Our guest is Adam Helway with Secret Sushi Creative, and you can find Adam online at secretsushi.com. So Adam, let's talk a little bit about how different businesses are using Pinterest in order to benefit them.
Yeah, so we talked about the Wall Street Journal, which I think is, to me, it's always, that's been a creative example of really, I wouldn't have thought of that. But there's a number of other large brands on there, and of course small brands as well. But if you think about some of the bigger brands like Home Depot, Victoria's Secret, Crate and Barrel, Wall Street Journal, as I mentioned, those folks are all using it in very different ways. And you think of those as kind of more visual brands. But I've seen some interesting uses early on with Pinterest. For instance, there's a huge conference that happens every year in Austin called South by Southwest. And there are some creative agencies out there that want to connect with people and kind of wanted to welcome people to the area when they came, and they actually tied their website to Pinterest boards by creating kind of this crazy web page that would welcome people to their area, to Austin, and show them about the best places to eat, the different monuments and things like that, the interesting places to go check out, the gear that they should bring, all that sort of thing. And so they had kind of like this big image that linked individually to these pin boards that they created to correspond to those over on Pinterest, and kind of garnered some awareness by doing that. We're seeing a lot of websites now integrating a lot of these Pinterest tools, and Pinterest has done a great job of quickly expanding out to do things like create pin buttons similar to like you might have a like button or a tweet button on your website. And so putting that under, for instance, underneath an image, if you were talking earlier about making sure you had this very predominant image on a blog post, for instance, and if you have a really nice image on a blog post or one that's within it, or even maybe an infographic or something, you can tie that to Pinterest very quickly, or almost in a way remind those who are on Pinterest who are at the blog to say, pin this over, go ahead and share this by putting a pin it button directly underneath it. And it's actually quite easy to do that. They make it easy to do that on Pinterest. They provide a lot of tools to make that happen. But where Pinterest is making the most impact really is about driving discovery. We think of something like Google as a place where when I know that I have a question or I know that I'm looking for something, I go there and I search for it and I find it, similar to kind of the old school Yellow Pages paradigm. Pinterest is very much about discovery. It's about people who want to just browse around and find interesting things and then suddenly stumble upon this really incredible product or this beautiful image that they find, and then they kind of dive a little bit deeper to find out where did it come from, where does it link to, where can I buy this product, and then it drives some traffic back to sites. They're saying that it's driving more traffic nowadays than most of the other social networks combined, and I think that take a little research to make sure that how much truth there is to that 100%, but it is showing that it is driving considerable traffic back to many sites that previously had a hard time getting traffic to some of their product pages and such, for instance.
Sure. So if a business has not launched on Pinterest yet and they're going to do it in the new year and get started on the platform in 2013, what tips and recommendations would you have for businesses who are just starting out on the Pinterest platform?
Well, the great thing about it is about, had we had this conversation 6 months ago, the tips would have been different, but I'd say the biggest tip is really go to business.pinterest.com, and you will find every reason and every tool, at least that Pinterest is sharing at the moment, to help you on your way, to help you get started, to help you take a look at some examples, those sorts of things. Pinterest has just a whole area of their site dedicated to helping businesses.
And what's that site again?
It's business.pinterest.com.
Okay, great.
And but a couple of things that I'm not sure if they talk about it all, and something that that I've been telling folks to do a lot is, if you're not on Pinterest, or even if you're on it and you're trying to understand what you want to do, is to go around and just use the search and find other brands, other companies, because you can search for either pins, boards, or users. Find users that are sharing something that are very similar to you, that kind of inspire you to think about how you might do it for your particular company, your particular brand. Additionally, there's a trick where you can actually find out all the pins from one specific website and just see what what's been pinned so far. I don't know how many pins have been coming from my site, so how do I find that? You go to pinterest.com/source/ whatever your site is .com, so 3girlsmedia.com, for instance. And when you do that, it will bring up every pin by every person on Pinterest that's been pinned directly from your site. So you may think, nobody's going to my site. And I remember meeting with a big corporate tech company out here one time, and then showing them that very early on in Pinterest, there were people pinning their products and product images directly from their website on Pinterest, and you wouldn't have thought that to be, happening. And so to get an idea of what are people gravitating towards on your website already, what products and services are they gravitating towards, by doing that, you can find that out. And you can do that with a competitor site as well, to see what kind of things they feel are interesting there, and maybe kind of move in creating some images in that direction on your site when you think a little bit more broadly about your visual strategy.
Sure, great ideas. And what are some of the other creative ways that companies are using Pinterest?
So there is a really awesome, there's been a lot of really interesting and creative uses and kind of campaigns. So for instance, Honda themselves, they had so Pinterest has a kind of mechanism where if you use a little @ sign and you say a user's name, just like on, say, Facebook or Twitter, you can mention them. They'll be notified that you're saying something about them. And so Honda, for instance, had this campaign called Pintermission. So what they did is they would find people who they felt were appropriate to their brand and influencers on Pinterest, and then what they would do is they would mention them, and they would have a board with an invitation that they created specifically for them, based on some research that they did in following this person on Pinterest and taking a look at what they liked and didn't, and said, we want to give you $500 to do a Pintermission, to step away from Pinterest, to step away from the internet, and go out and enjoy life. Do whatever it is that you want. Here's $500. We don't care what it is. And the way that they did it garnered a lot of awareness. There were repins of the invitation. There were repins of, for instance, them taking photos of what they did during that Pintermission with the $500. And it was on brand for Honda because they were trying to encourage people to go out and experience life and take advantage of the outdoors and stepping away from the internet.
Fabulous idea and extremely creative. I certainly wouldn't have thought of something like that. So brilliant for Honda.
Yeah, and definitely. I think it's one of my favorites.
For sure. So, is there a way that businesses can determine the impact that Pinterest is really having on their business? Because certainly with traditional websites or blogs, you can use Google Analytics, which provides you with incredible data on, everything from where your visitors are coming from, how long they're staying on your site, what pages they're visiting. It's incredibly in-depth. But with a social networking platform like Pinterest, is there any way to get any analytics?
Well, a couple things. I'm going to talk about really quickly. The future is that Pinterest will hopefully have some metrics built into it. They've now made the determination between if you are a personal profile or if you're a business/brand profile.
Yeah, that's actually something they just launched within the last couple of weeks.
Exactly. So if you've already previously, so for my company, I don't have my own Pinterest account for a company, but say if I were, I might have to say, well, first name Secret and last name Sushi, and then create a fake profile for my brand in order to use Pinterest as a brand. Now I don't. I can convert it into a brand profile. It can use a business name, and ultimately they should be offering some tools for that. But there are a number of tools out there that you could use that are starting to try to reach into that category and create metrics specifically for Pinterest and images and such. And then, of course, you can look at your Google Analytics and see how many incoming referrals you have from Pinterest.com.
Sure. What are some of those sites that are providing metrics?
They've all kind of changed their name a number of times. That's why I was trying to put my finger on it. There's been ones called Pinnerly, Pinreach, and I think they've all all been kind of dinged for having pin in their name a bit. But if you take a look at some of those, there's a couple of those guys out there if you look for Pinterest metrics and things like that. But Pinnerly and Pinreach are the ones that come to mind.
Yeah, and I'm sure you could do a Google search for Pinterest metrics or analytics and see what Google comes up with. And the other thing that I really like about Pinnerly is it allows you to actually pre-schedule your pins out in advance. So you can worry about, say, on the weekend when you've got time, or in the evening, or on your lunch hour, or whatever, scheduling out a whole bunch of pins to appear later in the week whenever you want them to appear, as opposed to having to be on Pinterest every day and posting fresh content. So it allows you to schedule things out in advance, and that's really convenient and a real time saver for a lot of businesses. When we come back from the break, we're going to be talking about verifying your business on Pinterest and creating a business or brand account instead of a personal account, and really the differences there. You're listening to Punch, Media and Marketing Made Easy on 1220 AM KDOW. I'm your host, Erica Taylor Montgomery, and we'll be right back after the break.